My name is Nana May, and this happened to me. The bank alert came through while I was stirring soup. Not loud, not dramatic, just a soft vibration against the kitchen counter. Account access removed. I remember wiping my hands on my apron before picking up the phone, like cleanliness might somehow make the message make sense. I stared at the screen. Read it again. Then again. Removed. I whispered it out loud, tasting the word like it was foreign. Removed. The soup boiled over. I didn't move. Because in that moment, standing alone in my kitchen, I understood something without fully understanding it. Something had happened. Something had happened without me. My phone buzzed again. This time WhatsApp. The family group chat. The one I barely spoke in anymore. I opened it and realized I was the only one who didn't know. Photos loaded slowly. Balloons. Fairy lights. A rented hall. My daughter-in-law. Smiling like a stranger who owned my family. The caption read, "So grateful for everyone who came tonight. Sparkling heart, couldn't have done this without you." Tonight. I scrolled. There was my son, my daughter, my grandchildren, all dressed up, all laughing, all very much alive. I looked at the time. 7:42 p.m. I was supposed to be at the hospital. They had moved my surgery up. They told me not to eat after noon. They told me someone from my family needed to sign the consent forms. I typed, then deleted, typed again, finally sent. Is everyone okay? 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Then my daughter-in-law replied, yes, red heart, just a small get-together. Hope you're resting. Resting. I sat down. The chair creaked beneath me, loud in the silence of the house I had paid for. Paid for. That thought hit harder than the bank alert, because suddenly everything started lining up. The new decorations she insisted on. The temporary change to the account so she could plan events more easily. The polite smiles when I asked questions. The way my son had started saying, "We'll handle it, Mom." When did we stop including me? My phone rang. The hospital. I answered on the second ring. Mrs. May. Yes. We were expecting you an hour ago. Are you on your way? I swallowed. I thought my son would be here. There was a pause. Then the nurse said something that split my world clean in half. I'm sorry, ma'am. He's not listed as your emergency contact anymore. The room tilted. I beg your pardon. You signed a digital update last week, she said gently. Your daughter-in-law is now primary. Signed. I laughed. A small, broken sound. I don't use apps, I said. Another pause. Well, she replied, carefully. The consent forms were already approved. We assumed you knew. Assumed. I hung up without saying goodbye. My hands were shaking now. I opened my email. Scrolled. There it was. A confirmation. Digital will updated. My name appeared as grantor. Her name appeared everywhere else. I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just sat there, because that's what I had learned to do. Stay quiet. Keep the peace. Don't make a scene. My phone buzzed again. A voice note. From my son. I pressed play. Mom. Listen, it's not what it looks like. We just thought. The message cut off. Another came through. Please don't overreact. Overreact. I looked back at the photo. At the cake. Congratulations, Aisha. It read. For what? Becoming the center of my family? Replacing me quietly, politely, efficiently? I whispered to the empty room. When did I stop mattering? No one answered. Outside, a car drove past. Life continued. Mine had paused. I opened the group chat again. Scrolled higher. That's when I saw it. A message from earlier that afternoon. From my daughter. Is Mom aware yet? And beneath it, a reply. From my daughter-in-law. She doesn't need to know tonight. I closed my eyes, because suddenly, the bank alert wasn't the worst part. The worst part was understanding this wasn't an accident. It was a decision, a choice, and I was the one they chose to leave out. I didn't know it yet, but that message would cost them more than a party, and it would cost me my children. My name is Nana May, and this happened to me. The first thing I heard wasn't music. It was laughter. Hi. Careless laughter. The kind that comes from people who aren't worried about hospitals or bank alerts or consent forms. I was sitting in the dark living room when my smart doorbell app sent a notification. Motion detected. I frowned. No one ever came by unannounced anymore. I opened the live feed. At first, all I saw were headlights washing over the driveway. Then the sound came through. My son's voice. "Mum won't notice," he said, laughing. "She's probably asleep." I felt something cold move through my chest. The camera adjusted. There they were. My children. All of them. Dressed in clothes I had never seen. Carrying gift bags. Flowers. A large wrap box that required 2 hands. They stood on my driveway, and took selfies. My daughter tilted her head. "Wait, let's get the house number in the back," she said. The house number I paid for. The house I nearly lost the right to speak in. I watched them walk back to their cars. Watched my son open the trunk and hand out party favors. That's when I realized. They weren't arriving. They were leaving my house, to go celebrate her. I lowered the phone slowly, like it might explode in my hands. The silence in the living room pressed against my ears. I thought about the years I spent organizing birthdays, cooking all night, cutting cakes evenly so no one felt slighted, smiling even when my feet ached. I whispered, "After everything I sacrificed." The words fell flat. No one heard them. My phone buzzed again. Another message in the family group chat. A video this time. Someone had gone live. My daughter-in-law. I shouldn't have opened it. I know that now. But curiosity is cruel when you're already bleeding. The screen filled with color. Music thumping. A banner behind her. "Welcome to Aisha's era." She laughed into the camera. "Guys, say hi." They did. My children waved. Someone shouted, "Best daughter-in-law ever." Applause. My son leaned in and kissed her cheek. I noticed the watch on his wrist, the one I bought him. I noticed the necklace around her neck, the one that used to be mine. I felt my face burn, not from anger, from humiliation. Public, broadcast, permanent. A comment popped up on the live stream. "Where's Mom?" My daughter-in-law laughed. "Oh, she couldn't make it," she said lightly. "She doesn't really enjoy these things anymore." Like I had aged out of my own family. Someone off camera whispered something. She nodded. "Yeah," she added, lowering her voice just a little. "We didn't want to stress her." Stress me? While they drained my account. While they signed my name. While they danced. I closed the app. My hands were shaking too badly to keep watching. I stood up too fast and had to grab the back of the couch. For a moment, the room spun. I thought of the nurse. "You're not listed as family anymore." I sat back down. Slowly, carefully. I wasn't ready to fall. Not yet. The doorbell app chimed again. Package delivered. I laughed. A hollow sound. Even the delivery man knew where I lived. I opened the front door. The night air was cool. On the doorstep sat a large envelope. Not a package. Documents. My name printed neatly on the front. Inside were copies of property papers. Highlighted. Flagged. Sticky notes in her handwriting. Just for records. I flipped through them. That's when I saw it. A signature. Mine. Perfect. Too perfect. I whispered, "I didn't sign this." My phone rang. My daughter. I answered. "Why are you doing this?" I asked. There was music in the background. She stepped away. "Mom, please don't start," she said quietly. "Tonight isn't the night." Then when? She sighed. "We were going to tell you." When? After a pause, she said, "After the party." I closed my eyes. Am I invited to my own life after dessert too? I asked. She didn't answer. I heard my daughter-in-law in the background. "Who are you talking to?" My daughter lowered her voice. "She's upset," she said. Upset. Like I'd misplaced my keys. Not my authority. Not my identity. Not my place. "I need to know something," I said. "Who signed those papers?" Another pause. Then, very softly, my daughter said, "She said you agreed." She. That word. "She said you told her to handle things," my daughter continued. "We trusted her." Trusted her. I felt something shift inside me. A quiet clarity. Not rage. Not tears. Something steadier. "Put me on speaker," I said. "Mom." Put me on speaker. A few seconds later, I heard them all. The music lowered. My daughter-in-law laughed nervously. "Nana May." We were just talking about you. I smiled. They couldn't see it. That's interesting, I said calmly, because I've been watching. Silence. I saw the driveway photos, I continued. I saw the live stream. I saw my signature. My son spoke. Mom, you're misunderstanding. No, I said gently. I finally understand. Another silence. Then she said it. The sentence that changed everything. Well, my daughter-in-law said lightly. Someone had to take responsibility. Responsibility. For my money. My home. My voice. I nodded, even though they couldn't see me. You're right, I said. Someone does. I hung up. My phone buzzed immediately. Missed calls. Messages. I didn't open them, because for the first time that night, I wasn't the one scrambling. I looked at the documents again, at the forged signature, at the dates, at the digital trail they thought I wouldn't understand. I whispered to myself. I stayed quiet to keep the peace. Then I added, but peace isn't silence anymore. I didn't know it yet, but somewhere, a lawyer's phone was about to ring. And that party? It was about to end. My name is Nana May, and this happened to me. The hospital corridor smelled like antiseptic and overbrewed coffee. It was barely 9 in the morning, yet I felt like I'd lived an entire lifetime since the night before. I stood at the reception desk clutching my handbag like it was the only thing still tethering me to who I used to be. The young woman behind the desk smiled politely. Name? Nana May, I said. She typed, paused, typed again. Her smile faded just a little. Can you confirm your date of birth? I did. She nodded slowly, then looked back at the screen. I'm sorry, she said. You're not cleared to make decisions on this file. I blinked. This is my file, I replied quietly. She hesitated. Your daughter-in-law is listed as the primary medical decision maker. There it was again. That casual sentence, spoken like it meant nothing. I felt the familiar burn behind my eyes, but I swallowed it down. I never agreed to that, I said. She leaned closer, lowering her voice. It was updated digitally last week. Verified. Verified. I laughed under my breath. By who? I asked. She didn't answer. She didn't have to. A nurse appeared beside her. Mrs. May. Yes. Your procedure has been postponed, she said gently. There was confusion about consent. Confusion. I wanted to scream. But instead, I nodded. Of course there was, I said. They led me to a plastic chair near the wall. I sat, watched families walk past, daughters holding mothers' hands, sons arguing with doctors. No one questioned their right to be there. I checked my phone. 27 unread messages. I opened one. From my son. Mom, please answer. Aisha's very upset. Upset. I closed it. Another message came through. From an unknown number. This is the hospital legal liaison. Please call immediately. My heart thudded. I stood and walked into the quiet stairwell before dialing. Mrs. May, a man said briskly. There appears to be a discrepancy regarding your consent forms. A discrepancy? Yes. The digital signature does not match your historical records. I closed my eyes. So you see it too, I said. There was a pause. Have you authorized anyone to act on your behalf? No. Then we will need to suspend all third-party authority until this is resolved. Suspend. For the first time, the word felt like relief. Thank you, I whispered. When I hung up, my knees felt weak. But I was still standing. My phone rang again. This time, my daughter-in-law. I let it ring. Again. Again. Then a voice note arrived. Her voice was different now. Tight. Controlled. Nana May, she said, the hospital called. Why are you complicating things? Complicating. As your family, we were just trying to help. Help. I thought you trusted me. I pressed my thumb against the screen. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my email. Another notification had arrived. Property access temporarily restricted. I stared at it. Restricted. My own house. I felt a familiar ache in my chest. Not panic. Grief. For the woman who believed love meant letting go. A security guard approached. Ma'am, are you all right? I nodded. Yes, I said. I just need a moment. He smiled kindly and stepped back. That kindness almost broke me. I thought of my children. How they used to run to me when they were hurt. How somewhere along the way, they stopped seeing me as someone who could bleed. My phone buzzed again. A family group chat message. From my sister. What's going on? People are talking. Talking. So it had started. I typed slowly. I'm at the hospital. There are documents I didn't sign. 3 dots appeared. Then disappeared. Then reappeared. Before she could respond, another message cut in. From my daughter-in-law. Please don't involve others. This is a private family matter. Private. When it suited her. I didn't reply. Because I was done explaining myself. A doctor approached me. Mrs. May, he said kindly. We've postponed everything until consent is clarified. You can go home. Home. The word felt uncertain. Thank you, I said. As I walked out, I felt eyes on me. Whispers. I straightened my back. I would not shrink. Outside, my phone rang again. My son. I answered. Why didn't you tell me? He asked immediately. Tell you what? That you didn't sign anything, he said. They're questioning everything now. I closed my eyes. You should have asked me before letting someone sign my name, I replied. He was quiet. Then, softer, she said you wanted less responsibility. I laughed. A short, sharp sound. I raised 3 children, I said. Responsibility has never scared me. Another pause. Mom, he said. People are starting to ask questions. I leaned against the cold wall. Good, I said. He inhaled sharply. This could get messy. I looked up at the sky. Gray. Heavy. It already is, I replied. I hung up before he could say more. My phone vibrated immediately. A message from my lawyer. We need to meet. Today. My heart skipped. I didn't know how he knew yet. But somehow, the silence around me had cracked. I whispered to myself. When did I stop mattering? Then I answered my own question. I didn't. As I walked to my car, another message came through. From my daughter-in-law. Just 4 words. You're making a mistake. I stared at the screen. Because for the first time, I saw fear. And fear meant leverage. I started the engine. I didn't know what she was hiding yet. But I was about to find out. My name is Nana May, and this happened to me. The lawyer's office was colder than the hospital. Not in temperature. In feeling. Leather chairs. Frosted glass. A silence that felt practiced. I sat across from him with my handbag on my lap, my hands folded the way I taught myself to sit when I didn't want to look afraid. He didn't rush me. That alone told me something was wrong. Mrs. May, he said finally, sliding a folder across the desk. Before we talk about documents, I need to ask you one question. I nodded. Did you, at any point, give verbal permission for someone else to manage your finances and medical decisions? I answered without hesitation. No. He studied my face, not suspiciously, carefully. Then he opened the folder. Inside were printouts, emails, digital timestamps, screenshots of confirmations I had never seen. All of these changes were authorized from a device registered to your home Wi-Fi, he said. My stomach dropped. My home? Yes. I thought of the evenings my daughter-in-law sat at my dining table. Laptop open, asking for the Wi-Fi password again and again. It keeps disconnecting, Nana May. I swallowed. That doesn't mean it was me, I said quietly. No, he replied. It doesn't. He tapped one page. But this is where it becomes serious. I leaned forward. This signature, he said, is a traced replica of your original. Whoever did this had access to older legal documents. Older. I thought of the locked cabinet. The one she insisted on organizing. You shouldn't strain yourself bending like this. My hands tightened. That's forgery, I whispered. Yes, he said. And fraud. The word sat between us. Heavy. Real. He closed the folder. Now, he continued, here is the question that changes everything. I looked up. Why would your daughter-in-law believe she could do this without being challenged? I opened my mouth. Closed it. Because suddenly, the answer felt too close. She thought I wouldn't fight, I said. He nodded slowly. Or, he added gently, she thought someone else would support her. Support. The room felt smaller. You think my children knew? I asked. I think, he said carefully, they may have known parts. Not the whole. I leaned back. My chest ached. Not from shock. From disappointment. He slid another paper toward me. This is a temporary injunction, he explained. Effective immediately, all financial and medical authority reverts to you. Reverts. A simple word. Yet my hands trembled as I signed. My real signature. As we stood to leave, he paused. One more thing, he said. There's a property clause here that doesn't make sense. I froze. What clause? He frowned. A secondary beneficiary, he said. Not your children. My heart pounded. Then who? He met my eyes. Someone listed as temporary custodian. Custodian? Of what? I asked. He hesitated. Of you. The drive home felt unreal. Traffic lights blurred. My phone buzzed nonstop on the passenger seat. I didn't answer. When I pulled into the driveway, a car was already there. My daughter. She stepped out before I even shut off the engine. Mom, she said, rushing forward. Why didn't you tell me it was this serious? I looked at her. Really looked. When would you have listened? I asked. She flinched. I didn't know, she said. She said you were tired. That you wanted to step back. I nodded. She said a lot of things. My son appeared behind her. His face was pale. We got a call, he said. From the bank. I said nothing. They froze the accounts, he continued. All of them. I took a breath. As they should, I replied. My daughter's voice cracked. You're tearing the family apart. I felt the familiar urge to apologize, to smooth, to fix. Instead, I said softly, I didn't raise you to steal from me. Silence. That's when the front door opened. My daughter-in-law stepped out. She smiled. Too wide. I think we should all calm down, she said. This has gotten out of hand. I looked at her, at the woman who had lived in my home, worn my jewelry, signed my name. You planned a party while I was preparing for surgery, I said quietly. She shrugged. We didn't think it was life-threatening. My son whispered, Aisha. I raised my hand. No, I said. Let her speak. She crossed her arms. I was protecting this family, she said. Someone had to take control. Control. There it was. I nodded slowly. Then you won't mind explaining it, I said. Explaining what? I took out my phone, opened the lawyer's email. And the police report, I added calmly. Her face drained of color. You wouldn't, she whispered. I met her eyes. I stayed quiet to keep the peace, I said. You mistook that for permission. My daughter started crying. My son looked between us. And for the first time, they weren't looking at me like their mother. They were looking at me like someone they had underestimated. My daughter-in-law took a step back. This isn't over, she said. I nodded. I know, I replied. That's what worries you. That night, as I locked my bedroom door, my phone buzzed. A new message. Unknown number. You don't know what you've started. I stared at it, because suddenly I understood. This wasn't just about money or control. It was about something they were desperate to keep hidden. And I was getting closer. Chapter 5, The Custodian Clause. My name is Nana May, and this happened to me. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound in the house felt louder than it should have. The refrigerator humming, the clock ticking, my own breathing, shallow and unfamiliar. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying one phrase over and over. Temporary custodian. Of you. Not of my house. Not of my money. Of me. At 3 a.m, I finally got up. I wrapped my shawl tighter around my shoulders and went to the study, the room my husband used to call the thinking room. His chair was still there, empty. I sat in it anyway, opened the drawer I hadn't touched in years. Inside were old documents, wills, insurance papers, a brown envelope marked private in his handwriting. My hands trembled as I opened it. Inside was a document I didn't remember signing, dated 12 years ago, right after his death. At the bottom of the page, my signature. Real this time. Beside it, a clause I had never noticed before. In the event the grantor is deemed medically or mentally unfit, temporary custodianship may be assigned. My throat tightened. I read the name, then read it again. Aisha's maiden name. I felt dizzy. That wasn't possible. I didn't know her 12 years ago. I barely knew my son then. My phone buzzed. A message from my lawyer. We need to talk. There's something in your old estate file. I typed back with shaking fingers. I think I found it. He called immediately. You're awake, he said. I didn't know how to sleep, I replied. He sighed. That clause was added during a mass update after your husband's passing, he explained. A lot of widows signed without fully understanding. It was common then. And the name? I asked. There's a witness signature, he said. Someone who recommended the custodian. I closed my eyes. Who? There was a pause. Your sister. The room went very still. My sister. I repeated. She was listed as the referring party, he said. She named Aisha's family as trusted contacts. My sister. The same one who asked in the group chat what's going on. People are talking. I laughed softly. Of course people were talking. They always were. I thanked the lawyer and ended the call. Then I sat there, alone with the truth, that this betrayal wasn't new. It was planted, slowly, quietly, years ago, by people I trusted. The sun was just rising when the doorbell rang. I stiffened, checked the camera. My sister stood outside, alone, no smile. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. Why are you here? I asked. She avoided my eyes. I heard things escalated, she said. I thought we should talk. About what? She sighed. You've always been sensitive, she said gently. This didn't have to become legal. Sensitive. I stepped aside. Come in, I said. She sat at the dining table, the same table where Aisha used to plan parties. My sister folded her hands. I was trying to protect you, she said. After your husband died, you weren't yourself. I stared at her. You decided that? She nodded. You needed people around you who could manage things. So you chose them, I said. They were responsible, she replied. Modern. Organized. And I wasn't. She hesitated. You were emotional, she said. And emotional women make bad decisions. That sentence landed harder than anything else. I stood up. I survived my husband's death, I said calmly. I raised my children. I paid for this house. I didn't disappear. She looked away. Aisha was always ambitious, my sister continued. She saw opportunities. Opportunities in my life? She thought long-term, my sister said. Someone had to. I laughed. A sharp sound. You mean someone wanted control, I said. The door behind us opened. My daughter walked in. She froze when she saw us. What's going on? She asked. I looked at my sister. Tell her, I said. She didn't. So I did. I explained the clause, the signature, the recommendation. My daughter's face drained of color. You knew, she whispered to my aunt. My sister swallowed. I thought it was for the best, she said. For who? My daughter asked. No answer. My phone buzzed. A message from my son. Aisha's parents are asking questions. They're worried. Worried. I almost smiled, because worry meant fear, and fear meant exposure. That afternoon, a courier arrived. Certified mail. Addressed to me. Inside was a formal notice. Petition for custodianship review. Filed. By Aisha. She wasn't backing down. She was escalating. My daughter looked at me. What does this mean? I folded the paper carefully. It means, I said, she's afraid of losing what she took. That evening, my son came home. Alone. He looked exhausted. She's packing, he said quietly. She says you're unstable. I nodded. That's part of the story she needs, I replied. He sat across from me. Mom, he whispered. Did Auntie really set this up? I met his eyes. Yes. His shoulders sagged. I didn't know who to trust, he admitted. I reached for his hand. I know, I said. That's how this works. Later that night, another message arrived. From an unknown number. If you push this, everything comes out. I stared at the screen, because now I understood the real threat. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about control. It was about a secret buried so deep they'd risk everything to keep it hidden. And whatever it was, it involved me. My name is Nana May, and this happened to me. The next morning, the sun felt harsh, too bright, unforgiving. I stared at the walls of my living room, the familiar furniture now a gallery of suspicion. Each shadow felt like a whisper. My phone buzzed constantly. Lawyer updates, bank alerts, group chats, every notification a drumbeat reminding me I was under scrutiny. Then came the first knock. 3 sharp raps. I opened the door. 2 men in white coats. Mrs. May, one said. We've been asked to perform a cognitive evaluation. I stared. By whom? I asked. Family request, he said. Voice neutral. I stepped aside. They're coming in? Yes. As they entered, my daughter whispered, Mom? I waved her off. I didn't need sympathy. I needed clarity. The evaluation began. Questions, puzzles, oddly phrased memory tests. I answered each calmly. Silently, I observed them observing me. The notebook one of them held was too heavy for casual notes. I caught the flicker in his eyes. He doubted me. Good. Halfway through, my phone buzzed again. I excused myself. Checked the message. Aisha is talking to the bank. They're asking about power of attorney. My pulse quickened. I nodded to myself. Patience. Let them make mistakes. The doctors followed me to the hallway. Would you like water? One asked. I shook my head. Thank you. I heard the faint beep of a WhatsApp notification. A voice note from my sister. Are you all right? You need to be careful. I smiled faintly. Yes, I was careful. I knew what they didn't. I had evidence. Minutes later, the evaluation ended. They left. Neither said a word. As I closed the door, I whispered. They questioned my sanity, but I was fully aware. Every record, every document, every conversation. I had duplicates stored, cloud backups, screenshots, even video recordings. By evening, my daughter-in-law arrived unannounced. She knocked, sharp, impatient. I opened the door. Her smile was tight. I just wanted to talk, she said. I stepped aside. Come in. She looked around. My house, I said. Yes, she replied. But your children are worried. You're not yourself. I poured tea, handed it to her. Thank you, she said cautiously. I watched her. Every nervous glance. Every twitch. Why are you here alone? I asked. She hesitated. My parents, she said finally. They wanted to make sure I could handle things. I nodded slowly. Handle what? Her voice faltered. The custodianship. I raised an eyebrow. Yes, that. She sat, fidgeting. You know this isn't personal, she said. I sipped my tea. I think it is, I replied. Silence stretched. Then she whispered, I'm trying to protect the family. I set the cup down. From what? She didn't answer. Because she couldn't. And that's when my daughter-in-law made her first mistake. A small, careless word. He said you were unstable. I leaned forward. Yes. Her eyes widened. You can't, she stammered. I can, I said softly. Because I'm calm. Because I've been prepared. Because I have records. Her confidence cracked. I let her stew. Because letting them reveal themselves is more powerful than any confrontation. Hours later, I called my lawyer. Meet me at the office. Urgent. He sounded tired. Mrs. May, this could get messy. Exactly, I said. I hung up. That night, I reviewed every document, every voice note, every WhatsApp conversation, every bank alert, everything lined up. I wasn't just defending myself. I was creating a map, a blueprint, so that when the next move came, I would be 3 steps ahead. And they didn't know it yet, because the moment of calm is when power is at its strongest. That's when the message arrived. Unknown number. They're watching you. Be careful. I smiled. Yes, I was careful. But now I was ready. And the next move would be mine. Chapter 7. The bank called me. My name is Nana May, and this happened to me. The phone rang at 9 a.m. Unfamiliar number. I hesitated, then answered. Mrs. May. Yes, I said, steady. This is from your bank, the voice continued. There's been an attempt to access your accounts. I sat down. Attempt. Yes, they said. The request came from your daughter-in-law's credentials. I closed my eyes. I knew it. She couldn't leave well enough alone. I'll be right there, I said. I hung up. My son noticed the tension immediately. What's wrong? He asked. I didn't answer. Not yet. We drove together. The bank smelled sterile. Too cold. I checked my reflection in the glass. Calm. Controlled. I walked up to the teller. Explained the situation. They looked shocked. Apparently, attempts had been made to transfer large sums. Unauthorized. I provided my ID, lawyer contact, and explained the custodianship status. The bank froze everything. My daughter-in-law's expression, visible even through the security glass cameras, was priceless, her confidence cracking in real time. Later, in the parking lot, my son whispered, "She's furious." I nodded. "That's the idea," I said softly. Back home, the atmosphere had shifted. Even my daughter looked at me differently. Respect, yes. Fear, yes. But also a spark of clarity. I began to realize my patience was a weapon. That evening, my lawyer called. "There's more," he said. I listened. He outlined additional evidence of forgery and financial manipulation. "You have enough to file a restraining order," he said. I thought carefully. Not yet. Every action must be timed. Every word measured. Next day, my daughter-in-law approached me. "Mom," she said, trying to sound conciliatory, "we can settle this quietly." I smiled faintly. "Yes," I replied. "We can." Her eyes narrowed. "I mean it," she said. "This could ruin all of us." "I know," I said softly. "That's why I'm careful." Her lips pressed into a thin line, and I knew then that fear was my ally. By the week's end, whispers in the family grew louder. My children started questioning loyalty. My daughter-in-law tried to regain control. And I stayed calm, silent but ever watchful. A new message arrived that night. Unknown number. "You have them doubting. Don't let them see you sweat." I smiled. No sweat, only clarity, because now the game had truly begun. "My name is Nana May, and this happened to me." The basement door had always been locked. Not because I couldn't open it, because I never needed to. It was storage, dusty boxes, old furniture, family memories that should have stayed forgotten. But tonight, something pulled me there. A hunch, a whisper in my gut. I grabbed the key from the hook. The cold metal pressed against my palm. I unlocked the door. The basement smelled of damp and forgotten years. I turned on the light. Old boxes lined the walls. I started sorting through them. One box caught my eye, marked with my husband's initials. I opened it carefully. Inside were documents, old letters, receipts, and one folder marked confidential. I hesitated, then opened it. Inside were papers detailing financial transactions, property agreements, and correspondences I had never seen. My hand shook. These were records someone had deliberately hidden. And then, at the bottom, a small envelope. Sealed. No name. I opened it. Inside was a note in my husband's handwriting. "If anything ever happens to me, these papers must be preserved. They hold truths others should never see." My heart raced. I spread the documents on the table. There were receipts showing payments to my sister, transactions linked to Aisha's family, and then a series of letters, hidden wills, letters of intent, even private messages, suggesting that the custodian clause had been manipulated from the very beginning. It was a map of deceit. I realized something crucial. The betrayal didn't start yesterday. It had been planned years ago, meticulously, by the people I had trusted the most. I sat down, trying to process it all. A voice from above startled me. My mother? It was my daughter. She had followed me. I nodded. "Yes, come down." She looked at the papers, wide-eyed. "Mom, this changes everything," she whispered. "Yes," I said softly. "It does." I began explaining piece by piece. How my sister had orchestrated the custodian clause. How Aisha had been strategically positioned. How every financial move, every party, every exclusion had been calculated. Tears streamed down my daughter's face. "I never knew," she whispered. "I stayed quiet to protect you all," I said. Her eyes narrowed. "But why now?" "Because the game is no longer theirs," I replied. "It's mine." At that moment, the front door slammed. Aisha's voice carried down the stairs. "What are you doing in the basement?" I stood, holding the documents. "I'm reclaiming my life," I said calmly. She froze, and that's when the power shifted. "My name is Nana May, and this happened to me." The air was thick, heavy. Every sound in the house seemed amplified. I walked into the living room, papers in hand. Aisha and my sister were there. They hadn't expected me to be prepared. Their eyes widened as I entered. "Mom," my daughter whispered. I ignored her. I focused on the two who had betrayed me. "Do you know why I'm standing here?" I asked. Neither answered. Silence. I spread the documents on the table. The bank notices, the hidden wills, the letters, every transaction, every plan, every manipulation. Aisha's face drained of color. She opened her mouth to speak. I held up a hand. Not yet, I said. My sister shifted uncomfortably. I thought I was protecting you, she said. Protecting me? I echoed. From yourself. Aisha swallowed. You don't understand, she whispered. I understand perfectly, I said. You tried to control my life, my finances, my children, my home. All because you thought you could. My daughter stepped forward. Mom's right, she said firmly. You lied, manipulated, and excluded. Enough. Aisha looked between us, panic rising. I only wanted what was best for the family, she said. For you, I corrected. Not the family. The room was silent, heavy with tension. I placed the papers back in order. I gave you years of patience, I said. Years of quiet endurance. And now, I raised my voice slightly. Now, you will answer for your actions. My sister tried to interrupt. No, Nana May, I said firmly. You wait your turn. Aisha's lip trembled. My daughter-in-law realized she had no cards left. The power had shifted. Completely. Then, I said the words that would haunt them. The lawyer will review these documents. Custodianship, finances, and every deceitful action will be exposed. Aisha's eyes widened. You can't, she cried. I already have, I replied. My sister's hands shook. This was supposed to remain hidden, she stammered. And yet it didn't, I said calmly. I watched them squirm. I let them sit in the weight of their own mistakes. Silence filled the room. Then Aisha whispered, almost to herself, There's one more thing you don't know. My heart skipped. A new secret? I leaned in. Go on, I said. Her lips pressed together. She shook her head. Not now, she said. It's too dangerous. I stared at her. The tension was unbearable. My daughter looked at me. What does she mean? She asked. I don't know yet, I admitted. But soon we will. The confrontation ended for now. But one thing was clear. The game had changed. The tables had turned. And a new secret lurked, waiting to surface. My name is Nana May, and this happened to me. The morning was heavy. The sunlight barely pierced through the blinds. I sat in my study, documents neatly stacked, heart steady but alert. The lawyer had called for a meeting. I knew this was it. The culmination. I entered his office. He looked up from the papers. Good morning, Mrs. May, he said. Everyone's here. I nodded. The room was tense. My sister sat across from me, fidgeting. Aisha was next to her, face pale. My children flanked me, silent but supportive. The lawyer cleared his throat. I've reviewed all documents, he began. Custodianship, financial transactions, previous wills, everything. He paused. Mrs. May, you are fully in control. The temporary custodian clause has no power anymore. And as for the other manipulations, he placed a thick file on the table. This evidence will ensure full protection of your assets, your children, and your authority in the family. I exhaled a long, slow release. Relief, but also caution. Aisha opened her mouth. You can't. I already have, I interrupted calmly. The lawyer continued. And now, a revelation from a document we found hidden in the basement. All eyes turned to me. The room went silent. He handed me a sealed envelope. I opened it carefully. Inside was a DNA test. A secret my husband had kept before he died. One that linked Aisha to a distant relative who had financial influence, explaining her calculated ambition. Gasps filled the room. My daughter-in-law turned pale. I didn't know, she whispered. No, I said softly. You did. You just hoped no one would find out. My sister looked shocked. Even my children were quiet, absorbing the truth. The lawyer leaned back. This clears the final question of legitimacy and control, he said. Mrs. May, you have restored your dignity. You are the undisputed head of the household and authority over family decisions. I felt tears rise, not of anger, of justice. I looked at my daughter-in-law. You thought you could take my place, I said quietly, but you were only ever a pawn. Her shoulders slumped. I glanced at my children. They nodded subtly, understanding, support, loyalty. The lawyer cleared his throat again. And as for the bigger secret, he said, looking around the room. I held my breath. It appears there is one more legal document, previously undiscovered, that may influence future inheritance. It bears your husband's signature, Mrs. May. I exhaled. The story was not completely over. But for now, my authority, my family, and my life were intact. I looked around. The room quiet. Respect. Relief. Fear. Aisha and my sister understood the new hierarchy. And I smiled faintly. This is not the end, I said softly. But today justice is mine. The lawyer nodded. And in that moment, I felt